The Pittsburgh Steelers played a full 60 minutes at Acrisure Stadium on Friday night and scored 0 points. 8 days earlier, that same offense hung 28 points on the Green Bay Packers. Against the New York Jets, two young quarterbacks combined for 2 interceptions and 4 sacks in a 17-0 shutout. And that scoreline became the loudest story in Pittsburgh all summer. Here's the part almost nobody put on the marquee. While the offense was busy failing, a second-year edge rusher played 25 snaps and produced the best pass rushing tape on the field. And by the end of this breakdown, you will understand why Pittsburgh has a real problem keeping him off it. Understand how strange that shutout looks on paper. This is the team that won the AFC North last season at 10-7, and it is now coached by Mike McCarthy, who arrived in January with 174 regular season wins and a Super Bowl ring on his resume. Aaron Rodgers is 42 years old and playing his 22nd and final NFL season. General Manager Omar Khan spent the spring writing checks, including a 4-year extension worth $100 million for edge rusher Nick Herbig. Then Khan spent a 3rd-round pick on a quarterback, and that one selection is still the most argued about decision of Pittsburgh's entire draft weekend. Flip to the other side of the ball, and the picture inverts completely. Pittsburgh surrendered one scoring drive to Geno Smith and then closed the door for the rest of the night. And the safety making his first appearance since a season-ending knee injury posted the highest grade of any Steelers player on the night. That is the tension running through this whole roster. One unit looks finished, and the other looks nowhere close to it, and the AFC North just replaced 2 of its longest tenured head coaches in a single offseason. But before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Steelers and all the NFL content. Let's aim for 500 likes on this video. Start with the number everyone quotes. Pittsburgh finished 10-7 last season and won the division, and that record is technically accurate and almost completely useless as a description of the team. The Steelers needed a 4th-quarter drive from Rodgers and a missed Baltimore field goal to clinch the North, and 1 week earlier they had lost to Cleveland with a chance to wrap the division up themselves. A division title earned that way tells you a team was good enough to survive a soft stretch. It does not tell you the team was actually good. Then came the wildcard round, and the mask came off almost immediately. Houston beat Pittsburgh 30-6 at Acrisure Stadium on January 12th. Pro Football Focus charted the Steelers at 2.3 yards per play in that game, which is not a bad afternoon so much as a complete offensive shutdown. That loss extended a postseason losing streak to 7 straight games, the longest active streak in the league, and Pittsburgh has not won a playoff game since the 2016 season. Here is the arithmetic that actually frames this franchise. Across its last 3 wildcard losses, Pittsburgh has been outscored 131-58. That is a gap of 73 points across 3 games, or roughly 24 points of margin every single January. A team does not lose by 24 points a game in the playoffs because of variance or a bad bounce. It loses that way because the roster has a structural hole, and for most of a decade that hole has sat on the offensive side of the ball. Follow last season in order, and the ending stops being a surprise. Rodgers signed a 1-year deal in May of 2025, arrived late, and spent the fall dragging a functional but limited offense through the schedule. He finished the year with 3,322 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions, and he went 10-6 in his starts. Those are respectable numbers for a quarterback in his 40s. They were also the ceiling of what that roster could produce. By week 16, the season had found a genuine feel-good moment. Pittsburgh beat Detroit, which delivered Mike Tomlin his 200th career win and secured the franchise its 22nd consecutive non-losing season, breaking a record the Dallas Cowboys had held since 1985. 2 weeks later, the Steelers were celebrating a division title on their own field. Then Houston came to town, and by the following afternoon, Tomlin had told his players he was stepping down after 19 seasons. That is the sequence you have to hold in your head while you watch this preseason. The Steelers did not fire a failing coach. They lost a coach who never had a losing season and who walked away on his own terms, and they replaced him with someone whose entire mandate is to fix the exact thing Tomlin could not fix. Tomlin now works Sunday nights for NBC. McCarthy now works the sideline in Pittsburgh, and the shutout on Friday landed directly on top of that comparison. Look hard at who walked out the door, because the departures explain more than the arrivals do. Arthur Smith is gone as offensive coordinator, and Terrell Austin is gone as defensive coordinator, which means every play call this team makes in September comes from someone new. Kenneth Gainwell left for Tampa Bay on a 2-year deal worth $14 million after producing 1,023 scrimmage yards and winning team MVP honors. Losing your own team MVP in free agency is a real cost, and Pittsburgh absorbed it without much noise. The offensive line lost a starter as well. Isaac Sumalo signed with Arizona for 3 years and $31.5 million, which pulled experience out of an interior that has struggled to move anyone in either preseason games so far. Grade that group honestly, and you get a mixed sheet. Letting Gainwell go looks defensible given his 1-year sample in Pittsburgh. Letting Sumalo go looks worse every time this line fails to generate push at the point of attack. The most recent subtraction happened on Sunday and barely registered anywhere. Pittsburgh waived rookie kicker Laith Marjan, an undrafted signing out of Kansas who missed a 44-yard field goal wide left against the Jets. That is a small move on a 90-man roster. It matters here only because it tells you how the new staff operates, which is that they will cut a player loose 2 days after one bad rep, with roster cuts to 53 players already in sight. Now look at what came in, and at the connection behind each move. McCarthy brought Brian Angelicchio in from Minnesota to run the offense and kept Patrick Graham as defensive coordinator. He hired Domata Pico to coach the defensive line, and Pico spent the offseason saying publicly that Yahya Black could become one of the best nose tackles in football. Rico Dowdle then signed a 2-year deal worth $12.25 million, and the reasoning is not complicated. He rushed for 1,076 yards in Carolina last season, and he already spent 4 seasons playing for McCarthy in Dallas. The biggest outside investment went to the secondary. Jamel Dean came over from Tampa Bay on a 3-year contract worth $36.75 million after posting 3 interceptions in 14 starts, and he gives Pittsburgh the press man corner it has been hunting to pair with Joey Porter Jr. Michael Pittman Jr. arrived by trade from Indianapolis and signed a fresh 3-year deal. Sebastian Joseph Day added interior depth. This month, the Steelers added Rayshawn Jenkins and then Elandon Roberts on 1-year contracts. And Roberts led the team with 4 solo tackles in his first game back. The money story underneath all of it deserves your attention. Omar Khan extended Chris Boswell, Nick Herbig, Darnell Washington, and Keanu Benton this offseason, and Benton alone is reported at 4 years and $72 million through 2030. The one player from that draft class still waiting is Joey Porter Jr., who sits on the physically unable to perform list and is set to earn a base salary of $3.924 million. Then Seattle gave Devin Witherspoon 4 years and $132 million on August 15th, and Pittsburgh's negotiating position got noticeably worse overnight. Go pick by pick, because this is where the real argument lives. The Steelers made 10 selections in a draft their own city hosted. They opened with tackle Max Ihianakor at pick 21, traded up with Indianapolis to take receiver Jeremy Bernard at pick 47, and then held 3 separate third-round picks. Cornerback Dalen Everett went at pick 85, and guard Gennings Dunker went at pick 96. The selection that started every argument came before both of them. At pick 76, Pittsburgh took Drew Aller, a quarterback out of Penn State. Narrow it down, and the case against is easy to make. Rodgers is on a farewell tour, Mason Rudolph is under contract, Will Howard was drafted a year earlier, and the Steelers spent premium capital on a passer whose final college season ended early after only 6 games. The case for the pick is just as real. Aller stands 6'5" and 235 pounds with the arm strength to make every professional throw, and McCarthy has built a 30-year reputation on developing exactly that kind of quarterback. The rest of the class filled specific holes rather than chasing names. Caden Wedgen came at pick 121 as a receiver and return option. Riley Nowakowski went at pick 169 as a fullback, and Gabriel Rubio landed at pick 210 on the defensive line. Pittsburgh closed with 2 7th-round picks in safety Robert Spears-Jennings and running back Eli Heidenreich. Let me be fair here. Rubio and Spears-Jennings have both played well enough this month that their late-round labels already look wrong. Here is the player from that opening promise. Jack Sawyer was a fourth-round pick out of Ohio State in 2025 who spent his rookie season as depth, appearing in 16 games and finishing with 34 tackles and 1 sack. Against the Jets, he played 25 snaps and Pro Football Focus graded him at 79.6. And inside those snaps, he produced a sack, 2 quarterback pressures, a quarterback hit, a tackle for loss, a batted pass, and 4 total tackles. His run defense grade of 78.5 led every Steelers defender on the night. I want to be careful with the framing on this one. The sack arrived on a rep where he was left completely unblocked, so it was not a pass rush win in any technical sense, and preseason snaps against backup offensive linemen carry an obvious discount. The batted pass is the rep that actually holds up under review. Sawyer read a quick screen developing, stopped his rush, and got a hand into the throwing lane instead of running himself out of the play. And that is a processing rep rather than an athleticism rep. The problem for him is arithmetic rather than ability. Pittsburgh has committed roughly $83 million a year to TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, and Nick Herbig, which trails only Houston among NFL teams at that position. Herbig shrugged the entire hierarchy off this summer. "There's no starters and backups," he said. "Sawyer is the fourth man in a room that expensive, and his only honest path onto the field is the 3-edge rusher package Graham has been building, where Herbig rushes over the interior while Sawyer and Highsmith hold the edges. Set the hierarchy straight before I give you a number. This defense is the floor of the 2026 Steelers, and it is a high one. With Watt, Highsmith, Herbig, and Sawyer on the edge, Cameron Hayward, Derek Harmon, Benton, and Black inside, and Deshaun Elliott back healthy after a knee injury cost him last season. The offensive line is the ceiling, and right now, it is a low one. Through 2 preseason games, this group has not moved anyone in the run game, and has not consistently protected anybody either. Stack the conditions honestly. If that line holds up, Rodgers at 42 years old, with DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman Jr. outside, is enough offense to win 11 games in a division nobody has locked down. If the line plays the way it has played all August, Rodgers takes hits he cannot absorb at his age, and no backup plan on this roster saves that season. That is the biggest variable in Pittsburgh, and it is not the quarterback competition everyone spent the weekend arguing about. Angelichio was asked directly about the interceptions and pointed at the entire unit. "But it's everybody," he said. So here is where I land, and you are welcome to tell me I am wrong. Pittsburgh wins 10 games again, reaches the playoffs again, and loses again in the wildcard round because this defense is good enough to carry a team to January, and this offensive line is not good enough to carry it through January. McCarthy was blunt about Friday night when he explained the interceptions. "One mistake leads to 2, he said. The Steelers closed the preseason Thursday in Buffalo and opened the season on September 13th against Atlanta. Drop your win total in the comments, subscribe if you have not already, and we will break down the roster cuts the moment Pittsburgh gets to 53 players.